The Chinese Communist regime, did they use big tech AI systems in order to track, quarantine, and even hunt their own citizens for their organs? Welcome to the AI Organization. I'm your host, Cyrus Parsa. This is the AI show. We begin with organ harvesting, organ trafficking, and the use of artificial intelligence, 4G and in the future 5G systems, as well as facial recognition, voice recognition, and so on. The history of it is very simple. Organ harvesting in China specifically began with a prominent scale and a large scale in the late 80s. In 1987, the Chinese Communist regime passed a law specifically stated that if you are a prisoner and a political prisoner or just a prisoner of the state and you are executed, those organs belong to the regime and they can be given to anyone they like. At that time, especially even up until the year 2006, 2008, 2010 even, the average donation per year was 3,000 donators, 3,000 donations throughout the entire populace of over 1 billion people in China. Think about it. You have over 1 billion people and only 3,000 people donate. Well, there was certain thinking, cultural thinkings about giving your organs up. So this is one of the reasons behind that. In late 80s, they began with the Uyghurs, which is the Turkic tribes out of China. In addition to Tibetans, these two ethnic groups were not Chinese, and they were used for organ harvesting. In addition to some people that were involved with Tiananmen Square, who were political prisoners, or even journalists or judges and lawyers, or even artists who didn't submit to the Chinese Communist regime's demands of one-party rule. They challenged the state through freedom of speech or certain other movements that they tried to start. Christians, house Christians, were also a big target. People of faith were the biggest target because they specifically went out and they said, no, we will not kowtow to the communist regime. We believe in God or the creator. So they were targeted. A lot of house Christians have also undergone organ harvesting. And these house Christians mostly are actually Chinese ethnic Han. Han is the predominantly large ethnic group in China. In 1999, the tide turned for the negative. They targeted the biggest group in China, which is the Falun Dafa practice. The Falun Dafa practice started in 1992 in terms of conduct of public, and they had three principles: Zhen Shan Ren, truth, compassion, forbearance. Initially go to 100 million people, and they approached the founder, Mr. Li Hongzhi, asked him, hey, we have this great practice, it's bringing health to the populace. Why don't you create a membership and charge money? His response to the government was, this is for the people, we don't charge money, we don't watch people, we don't do memberships. Well, the communist regime got really, really afraid because their numbers were outnumbering. The people who were believing in spirituality and practicing this meditation exercises and having these virtuous principles really started outgrowing the Communist Party. They saw it as a threat to the rule and other things. So they start persecuting them, slandering them, casting doubt, defaming them, even ruining them financially. In 1999, the Chinese Communist regime, with the order of Chairman Jiang Zemin, they initiated not only a crackdown, but a quarantine, hunting, arrest, and putting tens of millions of people in concentration camps. These people underwent torture, rape, and even murder. A lot of them. At a certain point, they realized that these were the best target, this group of people, the Falun Dafa, because they don't drink, smoke, or do drugs, and they did this Qigong exercise, they meditated, that these people were the healthiest to actually target for organ harvesting. And they started organ harvesting them, more so than anyone else. Because the numbers were over 100 million people were practicing this. And when they were arrested, they wouldn't give up their names, because if they give up their names, then their families targeted, and so on and so on. So they would go to camps to have no names. Next thing you know, they're organ harvested. This all broke out in 2006 by former Canadian Secretary of State David Kilgour and David Matas. On live television, they said, look, we found evidence all over the country. They're killing not only the Christian Tibetan Uyghurs, but the Falun Dafa and other people. And we found that 41,500 organ transplants are unaccounted for. They have 3,000 donations, but there's 41,500 transplants on the books that have been performed. Why is this possible? They also found, on the internet in 2005 that China, its government, its military, its hospitals, everywhere, they were not only promoting, but they were broadcasting 40-hour wait times for liver, kidneys, and hearts. Brain cash. People were flying into the country. This was suppressed, and it still was going on for many, many years. In 2016, David Kilgour made this. They updated their tally and their numbers and investigations. That 60 to 100, over 110,000 transplants every year, per year, were unaccounted for. From the year of 2001 up until 2016. That's a lot of organ transplants in China that are unaccounted for. This doesn't include the military complexes and the secret places that the Chinese Communist government would take someone that they would hunt and quarantine. Early 2000s, there were some lawsuits against some big tech companies for providing not only software, but the know-how to be able to surveil and censor their own people. By doing that, they were able to capture them and put in these camps. So how does AI come into this? Our big tech companies not only trained Chinese corporations that were under the command of the Chinese Communist Party, they gave them technology, advanced technology in facial recognition, and voice recognition, and AI systems that decode people's thoughts and patterns and even their faith by using algorithms and extracting their data, their facial recognition from not only Facebook, but the interconnection of the conversations, and because Facebook is in the US, right? But there was an interconnection between Facebook and the people in China, because the people who were in the US that had Facebook, their families linked back to China. So WeChat was created, and all the different types of Chinese software off the copies of Facebook, off Twitter, off of Google, which they have Baidu, their own version. And you have Alibaba, which mirrors Amazon. You have Baidu, which mirrors Google. You have the facial recognition companies, SenseTime, Face++. These Secretary of State Pompeo marked as companies that were believed to have hunted or gave their technology for use in surveillance and even capture of its own citizens. So if you look at it today, America is facing surveillance for 20 years. The whole world is facing surveillance. But for 20 years, we were not only complicit, but we were silent in what was happening in China. Hundreds of millions of people were persecuted. Hundreds of millions. Not just the Falun Dafa, not just the Christian, not just the Tibetans, not just the Uyghurs. The common citizen, the common journalist, the common lawyer, artist, common family member. If you didn't agree with the Communist Party, you were quarantined, you were surveilled, you were even subject to persecution or even death. The ones who did comply, they were given everything. And those people have an interconnection with the Communist Party. So a lot of our people that come here, either persecuted or it's opposite. Their families are linked with the communist regime, and they have a lot of money, and they affect through social engineering, giving their opinions to our big tech company leaders, to our institutions. And what's unfortunate is what happens during World War II, not only to the Jews and the Russians, but all around the world. It's been happening for the past 20 years in China, and people have been silent. And it's, in a sense, we are seeing that worldwide with not only the COVID, but the reaction of surveillance systems and many different things. So how was AI used? In another episode, I'll get into that more specifically. But AI, the software, and even the digital brain, like Hutu, which this is another software I'll talk about later on, That's a Chinese software. That digital brain is used to govern and mandate and mobilize AI algorithms and systems that connect to facial recognition, voice recognition, and other biometrics of spatial recognition, your geolocation, your health data, even your heartbeat. And this information was given back to Baidu, which is the opposite of Google. It's the Google of China. And it was extracted by the police security apparatus. It was extracted by the military, given back to the government. And the mandate was, pick these people for their organs. Pick that person. And this happened at a very, very large scale. And we were complicit in it, not just from speaking up, but allowing these companies to do business. The blame really goes back to the Chinese Communist regime and using its own people to fool our big tech companies, to fool the CEOs in our companies, to fool our average citizen, to believe that there's nothing going on in China while they're doing mass genocide of their own people. And how do you notice that when you have 1.5 billion people? If 20 million people go missing in 20 years, or 50 million people go missing, and you cremate their bodies, that's not a big number for a population of 1.5 billion people. So 50 million people, this is 1%. So if you get rid of 1% of your population, and you have millions of cameras everywhere and systems, and you control not only the data, but you control who says what and where it's said, and people are in fear. Just think about how much information, data, and even crimes you could hide by having your government, your communist regime, control the military, control the police in that country, and even control big tech companies that they have to control, surveil, enslave, threaten, quarantine, or even kill off their own citizens. Think about how much power. That's why a communist regime that has one platform on socialism connects to everything and becomes almighty and all-powerful, because there is no system of checks and balances in a communist regime. There's more to talk about on this topic and in this episode, but I don't want to say too much. There'll be more subsequent episodes touching on different things. For now, I want to conclude with, yes, organ harvesting, organ trafficking did occur against Falun Dafa practitioners, Tibetans, Uyghurs, Christians, and the communist citizens. It's well documented for over 20 years. We were complicit, and they used technology that was given by us or learned through us to not only track, but quarantine, hunt, and even kill people for their organs. And this is a communist regime that everybody needs to point at. Even our big tech companies, what they need to do, they need to say, hey, it's enough. They've done mass genocide. They've killed people for their organs. We can't do business with a country that's actually killing their own people. Not only are we complicit, but we're in a sense, we're helping them by doing business with them. So it comes back to haunt everyone in the West. Just think about it. What comes around goes around. So everybody, not just conservatives, but the liberals and people in the middle, they need to point at the communist regime. And that's a regime that's known to have killed over 100 million people in the past 70 years alone. Through starvation, through enslavement, through murder, through mass campaigns. And they've known to organ harvest people. So how can you trust a regime that lies to the whole world? They even lied to who? They lied to our big tech companies. They've lied to our politicians. They've social engineered so many people. They've organ harvested. They've literally cut open their own people and taken out their hearts, livers, and kidneys while they're alive, even their corneas, making $1 million per body, and advertise for the world to fly down. Just think about that. How sinister could this regime be in this thought process? Subscribe, like, please donate. All this information is in the book Artificial Intelligence, Dangers to Humanity. It's put in a neutral way, and it gives you dates and times and main facts, and as well as certain laws that were passed. The whole world needs to expose the Chinese Communist regime. They really do. And we need to look inside and say what, and apologize, ask for forgiveness. Why were we complicit for over 20 years? That's very, very important that we do that. Until next time, this is Cyrus A. Parsa, the AI Organization. Thank you.